xây tương thân tình trong đạo Phật, tùy khác màu nhưng một tôn sư. Hôm nay đây cùng nhau họp mặt, quyết noi theo đường Phật giáo Hoàng Dương.
Welcome back after this commercial break. Jay, do you have any other question?
Yeah, so we were talking a lot about karma, and so if you convince me about all this karma thing about reaping in a bunch of it, I kind of have a cheat question where, how do I get the most karma out of my life to make my life that much more greater and happy? Like, what are actions that I can do that can accrue me this spiritual lift or all of this bounty that you say nature has provided a world of?
And to answer that question, be charitable.
Charitable.
And practice generosity. Once you practice generosity, you're putting into motion the laws of cause and effect in a very positive way, because you're not focusing on yourself anymore, but you're rather focusing on other people. You're focusing on what can I do to help others get what they want. And if you start to do that, you in turn receive everything you want. It's not what you're asking for it, but because of the emotion that you're putting out and the thought of helping other people and applying the laws and the rules of generosity, you're putting into a very positive motion. But that's just one part. The second part is that you have to start to purify your mind.
Purify your mind.
Because look, in our mind, we have what you call the subconscious mind. Right? And the subconscious mind stores all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. The storehouse consciousness, the alaya vijnana, the 8 consciousness. Right? And then in this subconscious, store that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. It stores all the negativities and all the positive, all the greed, anger, and ignorance. Now, if you filled up your subconscious mind negatively, with all the negative thoughts, negative speech, negative habits inside your subconscious mind, subconsciously, you're going to attract all the negative things that is in tune to exactly what you're thinking.
Wow.
On the other hand, if you were to have your subconscious mind filled with positive thoughts, positive actions, positive words, words that can help and inspire others and create hope and building other people, then when you start to do that, you're putting into motion the laws of cause and effect in a positive way. And so here in the subconscious mind, positively, you start to attract things that are positive. When you start to think of bills, oh, I got you, end of the month, I'm thinking about bills, right? Then you're going to attract more bills or attract more fees. Rather, you should use your mind to be like, what can I use my time now to create opportunity? What business structure can I run after? What other job can I do? Or what can I do to make more income for my family instead of complaining about bills, right? Or complaining that there's no more opportunities. In the world that we live in, it's infinite opportunities. Infinite opportunities if we learn how to see where trend goes. When you start to practice the teachings and putting into motion by helping others, you start to remove the greed aspect of your life. When you start to train the mind and become more patient, you learn how to remove the anger out of your mind. When you learn how to practice the teachings in order to develop wisdom through meditation, through analytical insight, observing the sensation that arises, do not react to them, but respond to them positively by not clinging onto it. Therefore, whatever arises will only pass away. Eventually, like peeling an onion, you come down to the core. When you remove all of the negatives out of your mind, you're left with the positive, the Buddha nature. And therefore, you start to bring in a lot of great things into your life in accordance to how you're feeling and in accordance to how you're thinking. So it's very important that always put into practice the teachings of the Dharma. But in this sense, to answer your question, one, to practice generosity, to counter greed. 2, to practice patience to counter anger. And 3, to practice meditation to therefore create concentration of mind, develop concentration of mind, and therefore through intense practice of concentration of mind, you develop wisdom, which counters ignorance.
Oh. So, yeah, I have a follow-up question to that. Because throughout the temple now, I've seen most of us, we always bow to the Buddha. And another way of bowing that the monks or our masters say is to help with the negative karma we have in our lives is by practicing the repentance, or that we do where we bow a certain number of times. And can you kind of explain further how that technique will also help benefit either gain or possibly get rid of karma, if there's any sense to that at all?
What we have to understand here is in the repentance ceremony, which is the ceremony you're talking about, where we bow down to 108 Buddhas, is that ceremony is on the premise of within that hour that we're practicing, the thoughts that we have every time we bow down is the Buddha, which is a positive thought. The words we say out, like Namo Ayirafa, the speech we said is positive. The action that we do is when we bow down to the Buddha is an action of positivity because we're bowing towards the Buddha. And so at that moment, in that practice of Samhoi, or the repentance ceremony, is that within that hour, our thought, our speech, and our actions are all towards the Buddha.
Wow.
Right? And therefore, how do you clean a cup of dirty water without pouring the water out?
Oh. Then you would have to put more water.
More what water?
More clean water.
More clean water. The more you add clean water to the cup, it dilutes it. The solution to pollution is dilution. Right? You dilute the water by adding more clean water. Eventually it becomes clean. Our mind has a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
By doing all of the positive, you start to clean the mind and purify the mind by doing positive actions, by participating in the repentance ceremony. And we do it every 2 weeks. And every time we do it, it's great cardio. It's good for your health. But at the same time, you feel spiritually refreshed after you're done. Don't you feel that way?
Oh, definitely.
Right. After a good ceremony, you just feel really good inside, right? Spiritually, you feel really good. Mentally, you feel really good. But at the same time, physically, you feel really good as well.
Yeah, so I recommend if anyone is from the LA, Orange County area, during when? The full moon?
During the full moon, and the new moon.
And the new moon, is to come and join with us and practice with us, because, before being a monk, I thought it was kind of silly or seeing as people bow down constantly, but for what reason? And you explained it very well as to how it's a threefold actions. Because as we think and speak and do just purely Buddha itself, then we can slowly change ourselves and also create that much more water for us to become more pure.
Exactly.
And so other thing I see in there is also the incense. Is there a quick way if you can explain why we light incense into the temples for a family or for Buddhas itself, offering that generosity?
Yeah, the incense is more of a cultural thing. And in the Chinese tradition, in the Vietnamese tradition, they're very big on the incense. And the incense, when you light it up, there's smoke going everywhere. And the smoke comes up in a very mystic way. Right. And so it represents that whatever our thought when we're praying, with the incense, right, and the smoke goes up, it signifies that whatever our thought is or our prayer is, it's going out into the open air. And therefore, it answers to whatever ancestor they're praying to, or whatever person that personally just passed away, or whatever thought that they're praying to the Buddha. And it's very more of a cultural thing.
I see.
Yeah.
So those are, very interesting things, because I've always wondered why we do things in particular, and if they benefit us, and universally, if it calms us down and it causes us to focus, then hopefully we can achieve the things that we want in our lives. But of course, as we were talking this episode, practice is the best thing.
Yes.
To practice what we want to have in our lives.
Yes.
And so,
To wrap things up, we have to understand, in order for us to achieve what the Buddha wants us to understand and to achieve, we have to put into practice. But unfortunately, we don't have much time to continue further. We will continue next week with more questions and more answers that can help you understand the fundamentals of Buddhism. We hope you have a great and wonderful night. Namo A Di Đà Phật.
Xây tương thân tình trong đạo Phật, tùy khác màu nhưng một tôn sư. Hôm nay đây cùng